about to put dinner together from us. I'm back from yoga now, and it is freezing cold outside. It's been pretty cold this weekend here in Alabama, so I'm in my cozy sweatshirt now and cozy socks, and starting to put dinner together for us. But we've had a very busy weekend and busy day in general. My parents were here from Atlanta over the weekend. We had so much fun taking James to the zoo, and of course this morning we had church, and we went to a housewarming party for some friends. We loved your house, Amy and Scott, and really enjoyed seeing it and hanging out with all of y'all. And then this afternoon, I finally squeezed in a pedicure and manicure. It'd been like 6 months since I got a pedicure, and I honestly don't know how long since a manicure, probably 3 or 4 years. And so it was nice to get some me time because I'm always doing stuff for James or for Dane or working or, you know, just whatever. So being able to squeeze that in was nice. And then I had yoga at church tonight, and I'm trying to pull something together for my family. So I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time in the kitchen cooking tonight because I feel like I was cooking all week, and then I also cooked a lot this weekend. So even though I enjoy doing it, sometimes you're pressed for time and just need to do something simple, but still, you know, yummy for your family. So my tip for that is, of course, the easiest thing to do to avoid cooking is go out to eat. But you have to load up at least yourself and probably your spouse, if not all your kids, and take the time to go out and do it, even if you don't have to cook and clean up dishes. And then plus it's a lot more expensive than eating at home. So I feel like the easiest and most affordable way to get a meal is to raid your fridge or your pantry to see what you have on hand. Leftovers are a gold mine. Now I do know, I'm not going to name names, but one of my friends' husbands refuses to eat leftovers, and I've actually eaten some of her leftovers before, which were delicious because her family wouldn't eat them. So at our house, I try not to let things go to waste. I hate throwing away food, and my husband will eat things like for days in a row if it means that we can use up some of the leftovers we have around the house. So that's what we're doing tonight. So we're doing surf and turf, but we're raiding our fridge for leftovers, which makes it super affordable and super easy because all I have to do is put it in the microwave. But I'm actually going to go through and tell y'all all about the dishes that I made and the recipes, and so y'all have those tips and ideas for your cooking as well. So hey Angie, hey Mandy. All right, so I'm going to turn this around for you guys. Okay, so the first we've got the surf. So I have some mahi-mahi fillets here. I got them from Trader Joe's. I love fish from Trader Joe's because it's fairly affordable. Plus, they flash freeze their fish at the docks, and so you're getting frozen fish, but they're like vacuum sealed. They're flash frozen. I feel like the freshest you can get here in town without going to the beach. So I love getting their fish. And so basically I did lemon pepper fish over brown rice, and so I sprinkled a little bit of I rubbed the mahi-mahi with olive oil, and I sprinkled a little bit of lemon pepper seasoning on it, and then I cooked it in a saute pan about 3 or 4 minutes on each side. Fish really doesn't take that long to cook until it's done. So fish is a really nice option when you need to put a meal together fast for your family because it cooks so quickly, which is nice. And then I also just made this is just some, organic brown rice. I sent my husband to the store for Uncle Ben's, but they didn't have the one I was looking for, so we found another package of similar brown rice. It happened to be organic. We just kind of go with the flow on that. Sometimes we get organic, sometimes not, but this turned out great. So, just cup of brown rice, 2 cups of water. I think I put a tablespoon of dairy-free butter substitute in there to give it a little bit of flavor and a little bit of creaminess to it, and also so it won't stick to the pan. Hey Aunt Jan, we enjoyed seeing you over the weekend and having you over for dinner. It was a lot of fun. And then just a little bit of salt in there as well. Not much at all, just a little bit of sea salt. So just cook that, per package directions, about 20 minutes. And then I also made some lemon pepper butter. I love this recipe. It's been forever since I made it, y'all. I don't know if I've made it since I was pregnant with James. I'm not exactly, either when I was pregnant with James or maybe while I was still breastfeeding. Either way, it's been a while. So basically I have one stick of our Kerrygold Irish butter that we love, grass-fed cows. This is yellow butter. Y'all can see the yellow color. Most butter from grain-fed cows is kind of like an off-white color. Grass-fed cows have yellow butter. You can really taste the difference. So anyway, soften a stick of butter, whatever you have on hand, and then I also mixed in the zest of 1 lemon. I just grated the zest of 1 lemon and mixed that in. I also did about a tablespoon of chopped parsley, and I just used dried parsley that I had on hand, but fresh would work as well. If you do use fresh parsley, I would go for Italian parsley. And I also did maybe about half a teaspoon of the lemon pepper seasoning, not a ton. And since I put in the lemon pepper seasoning, I didn't use any salt or pepper in this. If I don't have lemon pepper seasoning on hand, I will just add some sea salt and ground pepper in there, and you're really not missing much because you're getting such a great flavor from the lemon zest. And it just smells so good when you're zesting the lemon too. I love the smell of lemon in the kitchen. So anyway, just stir all that together while the butter's softened, and we used some of that the other day. And then, you know, if you have leftovers, just stick it back in the fridge. Butter keeps a while. So that's a great addition to fish or chicken, a lot of different things. So what we did was we had the rice and then put the fish over it, and then put the softened butter on top of that, which just melted over the fish and the rice and was delicious. So that's our surf leftovers for tonight. We also had green peas that were steamed and went with our fish. We had peas and salad that night, and those were good. We had peas with our fish and steak this weekend, so that's just gonna go with our meal tonight and be our vegetable. So that's an easy vegetable. And then for our steak, y'all might have seen my video that I did. Hey Danielle, how are you doing? You might have seen my video a few weeks ago where I bought the whole beef tenderloin from Fresh Market, and then I trimmed it and then cut it up and froze it. So basically, we had my parents over this weekend, so I pulled out 2 portions of that. I usually portion enough for 2 adults and a very small toddler. So I pulled out 2 portions of that. So since there were, the 5 of us, we had a little bit of leftover since it would have almost fed 6. But I defrosted that, and then after it was defrosted, I marinated it in some old red wine for about an hour and a half. So thank you, Stacy. The wine that you gave us a few weeks ago is not going to waste. One of my friends had a bunch of coworkers over for dinner one night, and they ended up having a bunch of red wine left over. And since she prefers white to red, she ended up passing the wine along to me, which was an open bottle for my husband, since he likes red wine, but we didn't quite finish it before it went bad. So if we ever have an open bottle of wine, whether it's red or white, it really doesn't matter, and we can't quite finish it off before it goes bad, I don't throw it away. I just keep it in the fridge, put a cork on it. It's my cooking wine. So I just kind of keep that to the back of my fridge, and old wine is great for cooking wine. It tends to be more like, red wine or white wine vinegar, but it's really great for tenderizing meats and making sauces because the alcohol in the vinegar cooks off. So that's kind of a tip. So don't let that old wine go to waste. Some people freeze it in ice cube trays, which I've done before, and that works well too, but I just am kind of lazy about it, and I haven't found any difference from cooking with it, whether I freeze it or just keep it in a bottle in the back of the fridge. That's what my grandmother does, just super easy. Just, pour some out whenever you need some cooking wine. So anyway, so that marinated for about an hour and a half, and then I rubbed it with olive oil and sprinkled a little bit of salt and pepper on both sides, and then I sprinkled some rosemary on the top, and then I grilled it on our gas stove. And so we had red wine marinated and then salt and pepper and rosemary on the steak, and that turned out delicious and really tender. And then I also made scalloped potatoes, especially for my dad this weekend because he likes them and my mom particularly doesn't care for them. So I made them special for him this weekend, just some plain roasted potatoes for my mom. So, and I would recommend using more waxy potatoes like gold potatoes or Yukon Gold potatoes or red potatoes for this dish instead of russet potatoes, which are a little bit more starchy, and I would recommend more for baked potatoes or mashed potatoes. I used red potatoes for this recipe. I really love the flavor and texture of red potatoes, and I will actually use them for mashed potatoes in addition to other ways as well, sometimes instead of doing russet potatoes. But anyway, so I peeled and washed the russet potatoes, and then I thinly sliced them in my mandolin. I picked that up recently, but a mandolin is a kitchen tool that's pretty inexpensive. I picked one up for $10, and that was before my 20% off coupon from Bed Bath & Beyond, so that would have been like $8 plus tax for my mandolin. But it makes slicing vegetables so much easier than using a paring knife, and a lot quicker too, and you're a lot less likely to cut yourself from making those small slices. And you can also make julienne strips from mandolins as well. So that's another double use. If you ever want to make homemade French fries, that's a great tool to use. So I sliced those up, and then I warmed some half and half. I used half and half instead of heavy cream to lighten it up. I warmed some half and half over the stove with a couple whole cloves of garlic. I used just a couple cloves instead of using a whole head of garlic like some of the recipes I looked at called for, because I just like a little bit of garlic flavor. I don't want it to be overwhelming. So I warmed that a little bit and then added the potatoes. Then I brought it to a boil, and then I simmered the potatoes on the stove for about 20 minutes. So 15-20 minutes simmer on the stove till the potatoes are soft and tender, and the cream is reduced and creamy. I actually added about a tablespoon of butter as well, since I only used a fraction of the garlic that some recipes calls for. Some recipes use butter and cream, some use just cream, some use cheese, some don't use cheese. So there's a lot of variations to scalloped potatoes or potatoes gratin. If gratin's in it, it usually has cheese. Scalloped, so all potatoes gratin are usually scalloped potatoes. Not all scalloped potatoes are potatoes gratin that have cheese in them, if that makes any sense. So we ended up doing the one with cheese, potatoes gratin. So anyway, so I added a little, about a tablespoon of butter to it while it was cooking on the stove. I added a little bit of sea salt and ground pepper, and added maybe a teaspoon or two of thyme to it as well. And once that was set, then I poured it into a baking dish, and I sprinkled some freshly grated Gruyere cheese over the top, and then I broiled it in the oven for about 10 minutes to make sure the cheese was all melty. And that turned out delicious. I haven't made scalloped potatoes in a long time and tried a slightly different way of doing it, and it turned out delicious. So I would highly recommend, and if anyone wants more details on the recipe, we'll be happy to send it to you. And then our last follow-up for our leftover surf and turf night is some roasted and smashed sweet potatoes. So some of my neighbors had this earlier this week, but I was going to do roasted potatoes earlier this week, except my potato peeler decided to hide. I had to get a new one this weekend. Fortunately, those aren't too expensive. But since I couldn't peel and then chop up and roast the potatoes, I basically just roasted the potatoes whole, and then I was able to peel them pretty easily after that. And then, so I had the roasted flavor to the potatoes instead of just plain boiled sweet potatoes, and they're less watery as well when you roast them. You don't have to worry about the water from boiling them. And then I added some salt and pepper, a little bit of rosemary, and just the smallest drizzle of olive oil, and smash those up together. So super tender, smashes really easily, and really healthy. So instead of having traditional mashed potatoes that I'm familiar with at Thanksgiving with the cinnamon and butter and brown sugar and maybe some marshmallows on top, this is just really easy and simple and healthy. It just has you have a lot of flavor from the roasted potatoes. You have a little bit of herbs and salt and pepper, and I hardly used any olive oil. Like I think I used like maybe a teaspoon for I don't know, maybe 8 sweet potatoes when I was making this, so really not much at all, and it just blends really nicely together, and it has a lot of natural flavor to it, which is super healthy. But so we'll just make our plates, heat this up in the microwave, and we can kind of, decide which size we want to go with our surf and turf, and kind of mix and match there. But it's a great way to use up leftovers. We don't have quite enough fish or quite enough steak for a leftover meal on its own, so combining that into a surf and turf way is just a little bit of a twist on leftover night. A great way to kind of use up our ingredients that we have on hand, and also save time by not having to make up something new on a weekend where we were already pretty busy. So hope y'all enjoyed the ideas from the variety of foods we're eating tonight. If you want details on any one of those, just comment or message me. Y'all take care. Have a great evening.